Welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with me, your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. This is the podcast where you drop in for the threads, but often leave with something quite unexpected. You join me as I meet self-starters and creators to learn about their journeys, the highs and lows, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Please support the show by subscribing, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it helps so much if you take a few seconds to rate and review my show. I'm so excited to be joined today by an absolute superstar. She's an experienced runway, editorial, and advertising model who was named Miss Junior Teen Great Britain in 2015. She recently represented Newcastle as a finalist in the Miss Universe Great Britain pageant. And whilst continuing to model and build a successful career, she focuses any spare time and effort on charity work and working with young women, inspiring them to follow their dreams. Tailoring Talkers, please join me in welcoming Harriotte Lane to the Tailoring Talk Show. Harriotte, how are you?
I am good. I'm so glad to be joined by you. And for everyone who's listening, my voice is a little bit lower right now with the cold that is going around. And if it is out sooner than later that you probably sat there yourself, listen to it with a little bit of the husky tone as well.
Yeah, I know. I've started to lower. Did you notice from the very, very start of our call to now, like my volume kind of went down to try and match yours. I'm kind of trying to be in it with you. I'm coming to the tail end of said cold, so I really, really hope that you don't get it.
Fingers are crossed.
Exactly, that's it. So I'm just trying to think when you and I first got acquainted. I think you got in touch with me via Instagram because Miss Universe was coming up, and you asked if I would consider making a suit for you for, I guess it was for all your interview rounds and all that sort of thing. And I just didn't have the time to make it work, unfortunately. But we did connect anyway. And I've just been following your journey over the last, I don't know how long it's been now. It's been a year. It feels like longer. But, you know, you've just been doing incredible things.
Yeah, it's been a year and you will have seen the madness, the craziness, and definitely some of the highs. And I think I share only some of the lows on my social media of some of the disasters that do happen behind the scenes. I hope I get to even share some of them because they are quite amusing, but they don't always come to the surface on media. But yes, it's been about a year now.
So you and I have got at least one thing in common. We're the same height. So, Harriet, by the way, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Because it's a very, very subtle kind of like twist I need to do just after the Harry.
If it's Harry, everyone just calls me Harriet. There's no specific saying. And I only asked my mum a few years ago. I was like, by the way, is my name meant to be pronounced different? Because even my whole life, I've just been saying it like it's
Harriet.
E.T. Like Harriet. I just roll with a Geordie accent. Most people, it's quite abrupt and strong anyway, and it gets the different pronunciations. You just say whatever's easiest.
Harriott.
I think Harriott sounds not quite right. I feel like it's like a yacht, like a boat. That's what I vision in my head when it says Harriott. But Harriet is normally what I roll with.
Okay. I've been practicing Harriott all morning, so I'm going to stick with it. But you know where your name comes from, right? It's old German.
Yeah, I searched it up as well because I was like, where's my name? And my mum, she got creative and there is no German roots I am aware of. My mum just really liked the different spelling and here we are. There's not much of a story behind it.
Yeah, but the meaning is quite significant, especially because of the lady that you have grown to become. But Harriott means home ruler, which is so appropriate because you're just a total warrior queen.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, it's only because I'm really into searching anyone's name. I will be like, what does that mean? I'm that person. And it's like, not that into star signs, but I'm like, what does your name mean? So that's me on a late night search and then realizing as well that I was like, old German, my mum told me this was French. I've been telling everyone when I was younger, this is a French name. I had it all wrong. And then I looked, it was like old German spelling of it.
Yeah, so some of the old German names are really cool. I mean, the actual root, I mean, you know all of this, but this is for our listeners' sake, is actually Harriet, and then Harriot is a derivative. But I just think it's great because just sticking that O in there instead of the E, just gives you so many advantages in life, like having a singular user Instagram name, having a singular. I'm not going to say the other thing because I don't want people to find you. But which is really cool. Whereas I can't really do that because Roberto is even. I mean, Roberto Rivilla. There's only like two of us, but the other one is like this really old mathematician, and he's already hogged all the best handles, which is why I have like really obnoxious stuff like the Roberto Rivilla, and I'd rather not have had the, but anyway, there we go.
But here we are. We have to move until it's time to take the username that there isn't Harriet without not want to give away like an underscore at the end, and I'm thinking this is the dead account. If we just move that along, I'm ready to explain my name.
Yeah, or one day when you just become famous enough that Twitter, Instagram, and so on will just bow down to your demands.
I sound like such an ego if I did that. I'd be like, it's okay, but then I think I would be heartbroken to pass with that underscore. I'm like, you've been on a journey with me. Just thank you for coming all this way.
But you see, ego is one thing that you don't have, for sure. You have, I mean, the way you come across is that you have such a big heart, and there is, you're almost using the platform that you have now in every way that you can to empower other people. You're such a huge impact, and that inspires me greatly. And I know already we're not going to get through everything that I want to get through with you, so we might have to do it again. But let's just go back to when you were growing up, because you had to overcome a lot of adversity. Now, so as I started to say about 10 minutes ago, the one thing you and I do have in common is that we're the same height. We're both 6 foot. And I got to 6 foot by about the age of 11. And then I just stopped growing. What was your, okay, this is going to be such a pun. What was your growth trajectory?
So I stopped growing when I was about like 13, 14. So I hit at about 11. I was like 5'8", and I was so much taller than everybody else. There was this like, she's an I was joining kind of secondary school. And then by the following year, I was literally about 5'10", at 12 years old. Yeah. And then 14, I definitely stopped growing at 6 feet tall, but I would say I was about that at 13, and I've never grown since. I remember going to the doctors. I had low blood pressure, and they're like, yeah, you're probably on track for 6'2", 3. I'm like, no, I can't be that tall. It's like I have dreams of being a model, and there is such thing as being too tall. And I was thinking, I better stop. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot be 6'2". I will be an alien, a freak for the rest of my life. And for me, at the time, it felt like the end of the world. And now when I see taller women, I'm like, that's my thing. I'm the tall girl. And it's not actually that uncommon. Yes, you've not seen 6 foot tall girls and women as much, but it's not that unusual anymore.
I'd love to see you next to Gwendolyn Christie. You know Gwendolyn Christie, right?
Rings bells. She's like 6'2".
No, she's taller. I need to look her up. Maybe she's 6'3", 6'4", but she's but yeah, I mean, you'd look like Michael J. Fox next to her. I'm using references that you don't even know. I've just realized how old I am. But she became famous for playing someone in Game of Thrones. I can't remember the name of the character. And she was also Captain Phasma in The Force Awakens, the recent Star Wars films. And yeah, she is just very, very tall. But she, her profile has kind of almost sort of, softened it for any tall lady that's not as tall as she is, because she just towers over everybody. But anyway, that whole reference has just gone out the window because I can just see you,
in my face.
Like, no, what the hell I was talking about.
No, you know who I was searching the other day, and I can't remember her name, and it was from Wednesday. I was binge watching the series.
Yeah. That's who I'm talking about.
Okay, no, that's who I thought it was. That's who I thought. I know.
You know what? Because you're sat. I don't know if we're going to put this video out at some point in future, but for now it's audio only. And Harriet's wearing a great black and white checked top. And I'm thinking, as I'm giving this really stupid example and I'm quoting Game of Thrones and so on, the other part of my head is kicking me in the back of the brain saying, just say Wednesday. So yes, the headmistress person from Wednesday, that's who I was talking about.
I searched it. She's 192 centimeters, 10 centimeters taller than me, because I was curious because of the angles of things. I was like, I'm really curious about this. And as well, I searched the film Tall Girl as well, that I was curious, but I half know her. She will have no idea who I am. She also did beauty pageants. It was one of those, I looked up to her in the room when I was younger. And yeah, she's like really tall as well. I think she's like 6'4". But again, for the tall girls, if I had that content and media around me, I would go, oh, that's okay to be tall. That it's actually not something to feel awkward about or hunch over, especially as a female. As a male, I'm sure you feel a bit more kind of strength. I'm sure it's actually for the smaller guys that felt at the other end. Your face says no. Did you feel like an outsider?
It put such a big target on my back because I grew up, now I'm going to feel really old, right? But I grew up as a teenager in the 90s and preteens, late 80s, obviously. And back then, because there weren't as many people of color in the schools that I went to, it just put a target on your back anyway, because you look different to everybody else. But being that tall and sticking out about a foot above everybody else just put an even bigger target on your back. So I used to just get beaten up all the time. Mm-hmm. Like bullying was just such a thing, and I know it's something that you unfortunately had to suffer through as well. But there was an incident when you were, I think, 12 years old, and this is where you and I both have something else in common as well, is that I was a bit younger, but when I was about 3 or 4, I pulled a steaming pot of hot coffee over myself, and like had serious burns on my left arm. Now, lucky, I was kind of young enough to get over it, and it healed. Skin grafts weren't really a thing back then, not that my parents could have afforded it. But you had a similar incident at 12 years old and suffered very, very serious injuries, didn't you?
Yeah, so I ended up burning myself. It's like the most random hot liquid you think of gravy. You would not even think it would be a disaster. You just like spilled gravy down my leg, and when I said it, and it was like my friends were kind of giggling. It's like, what? It's like typical Harriette, clumsy, spilling gravy down myself. And I was like, thank God today I chose navy jodhpurs. I used to horse ride. I was at the stables, microwaving my bangers mashing gravy, very excited about it. As I picked up the tray, it was one of those trays. It was an M&S one, not just any tray. So the gravy was there and it squished out of the carton and went down my leg. I was like, that was hot, but nothing that you thought, not like a scald. And I would even relate to the immediate pain that I've burnt myself on steam, hurting more. I've hurt myself more by accident touching a hot pan by the side. That wasn't something I was concerned about. I went, ow. Wiped off my gravy, got on with my day. And I thought as the day went on, it's like, this is still singing. This is still really burning. And I told my mum, I was like, what happened? And she's like, go have a look for me and run some cold water on it just to get the temperature down. And I go to rub my jaw, but unfortunately at this point, all of my skin is peeling off. And it was about probably the size of like a grapefruit. I would say, of kind of for reference, a size kind of on my leg, of the skin kind of starting to peel away. Went to the doctors, unfortunately got some wrong advice, and I left it open, and the duvet got stuck to it. Not a vibe. Got infected, and resulting in I walked into the hospital with then going, you're going to be going into surgery as soon as possible. Stop basically eating, drinking fluids so we can get you in as soon as possible. I think without that, it would have been a very different series of events of even having to cut away even flesh and tissue, probably, because the way that fat burns work, which it wasn't a scald, it was a fat burn, so the equivalent of getting scalded with hot oil. It works the same as that. It continues to almost cook through the skin, not like steam where it's immediate and cools down. It's something that progressively gets worse. So if you're listening and you have anything that's fat, got that content of fat in it, go to the doctors, go get it checked out properly. And I was left with scars on my hip and my lower calf. And I remember at the time I didn't feel too bad. They were all wrapped up for about, I would say, 8 weeks before I even saw them. And they started to unwrap them, and I remember seeing them for the first time of how much my heart just dropped.
Yeah, I bet.
And I just remember thinking, no. I'm now almost 6 foot. I now have giant, angry, purple, red, literally stitches. I felt like Frankenstein because the stitches, I don't know why they look like that, but they did. And I felt like I was just some sort of dummy that was put together on my right leg. And I just was devastated the amount of time that I just didn't want to face school. People ask questions and that weren't sensitive, that 12-year-olds are like, that there's no sensitivity, that it's in some ways it's naivety to think about someone's feelings, emotions, that you just ask, what is that funny mark on your leg, of me not wanting to burst out in tears. So that was kind of the short story of my scars. I'm now very lucky to this day that I had a mum who was researched everything, went into all the details to try and make sure they went away when I was older. They are very faint, but I still have a perfect square on the side of my hip where they took the skin graft.
Yeah, no, but your mum, absolutely amazing, and an example to all of my listeners who are parents. I mean, you've got to listen to what Harriette's mum did next, because really she helped to set you on the path to where you are today, because she immediately started to sign you up for pageants, because she obviously saw that her little girl had just been crushed. I mean, first you got the height thing, so that obviously puts a little bit of a doubt of the dreams and the path that you want to follow. And then you have this thing happen to you. You're completely on the floor. Your mum just picks you up by the scruff of the neck, starts signing you up for pageants, because her number one mission right now is to build your confidence up. What was that like for you? How did your mum kind of sort of broach the subject with you first of all, or did she just go ahead and do it and then kind of tell you afterwards that, by the way, I've signed you up for this?
Yeah, so she entered me. She was searching model competitions. This is how it came about, that she was searching model competitions, and pageantry kept coming up, and she's like, not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for specifically a modeling competition. And she keeps seeing, and she sees it so many times that she's then like, okay, I gotta look into it. And she's like, all the parents of you are confidence building. I can't believe how much my daughter's changed. She can now speak in an interview, all these positive reviews. And she's like, okay, let's put a name in. And she didn't want to crush my confidence anymore, that she wanted to make sure that I got through to the semi-finals, that she wanted to make sure I got to that point. And she showed me the email, so excited, going, you've got into a beauty pageant. And I kind of smiled for a second, going, I don't know what that is. And because at the time that I knew no one who did them, I had watched Toddlers and Tiaras. And then I saw a photo of loads of girls in pretty dresses on stage, and I just then had a huge smile. I didn't understand it quite yet, but I was like, yes, I do want to be a part of Miss Teen Great Britain. That I was absolutely excited. And only 2 weeks ago, I actually asked my dad what was his thoughts on it, because I was really curious if he was a little bit, I don't want my little girl out there. What if her confidence is broken if she doesn't win, she doesn't place? What if she gets picked on there? But he just said he was really excited about it, that he was like, oh, wow, this looks like an amazing opportunity. And I was curious on that side of more of the male perspective, actually, of a daughter competing in pageants. I know now my dad obviously is the biggest fan and loves them. Well, only when I'm competing. He will not tolerate it if it's anybody. If I'm not in it, there's no chance. But he really thoroughly enjoys it as well. And that's the story of me still being in it 9 years later.
Wow. That's the thing, right? It's, as a parent, doing everything you can to cheerlead your child, and steer well clear of telling, I don't get any sense from you at all that you had parents that ever told you that you couldn't do something.
Yeah, I've never been told in my life that those dreams aren't for you, that I have very supportive and also a very close, like it's a very small family that we have, but very, very close, that I genuinely consider my parents as my best friends. Genuinely. And I mean that. I would happily spend all weekend just them, still to this day, and I absolutely do now. And before this, I'm like, okay, where are you guys going without me? What time are you back? I'm like, my best friends, where are you off to? I have FOMO of them doing anything without me. And they've always been so supportive of creating the best life possible for me.
Yeah. Wow. Um, and then, because that's the other thing with pageants as well, is that they're not that big in this country. I mean, they're a huge thing in America. Almost, the complete opposite, because there's, very much what's talked about pageants in America is the sort of dark side to them, and parents getting their 3-year-olds to run the catwalk at, a ridiculously young age. I mean, who would even think of that? And I think some of that translated over here. And so we as Brits kind of looked at it and were like, pageants, that's an American thing, and it's just really weird and horrible.
Yeah.
But you are, I think, really, along with some of your fellow pageant contestants, sorry, who you've become really, really good friends with throughout the process. What all of you are starting to put out on social media and in interviews and so on is really the, kind of what pageants should be about, which is building confidence and encouraging, educating, inspiring young women to be able to take the stage and present themselves. It's not about so much the kind of glitzy glamour and the modeling side of things. It is more about the confidence side of things. Have I got that right from kind of what I've been
Yeah.
seeing?
Yeah, and I think even from the media point of view, and I think that there's not much positive media about pageantry that even myself I thoroughly enjoy. It's not really about anymore with like toddlers and tiaras, but I remember a young age watching that, and it was more of a drama and more entertainment, not something I looked at myself doing then. More recently, there's a Netflix show called Insatiable,
Yeah.
and I would have to say it paints pageantry in such a negative light, even though it's great TV, great actors in it. However, it does shine a light on, say, the bad things that really don't exist in pageantry. It focuses on, say, bullying, competitiveness against the other competitors, kind of meanness, price, even about weight as well, saying you only have to be skinny, focus on eating disorders. That there's loads of things I'm like, those aren't actually connected to pageantry whatsoever, even though it's great TV. But if the only content, the only information we have about a subject is that, how could we know that there's more to know about the subject area? So it's almost in ways the media's fault, and why I'm making it my mission to put as much out in social media. So there's actually, I follow this girl that does pageants, and it doesn't seem to be that. I see with friends, having opportunities, all this positive experience, but there's this. So it's just for people to know there's an other side, the other side to the opinion, because there's only something that makes great headlines, TV, that a lot of people as well say for younger ones that, like you said, going down the runway, very glitz and glamoured up as well, that you see parents as well, dance moms, I think it's a great example. Yet dancing isn't a taboo because we know the other side of the story. That's an extreme. Same for pageantry. There's glitz pageants, which is toddlers and tiaras. Your Miss Universe, Miss World is classed as a natural pageant. They're two separate things.
Yeah. Because, as much as, for documentaries and so on, I guess the kind of bad stuff is what they want to put out there, because that's what gets the clicks and gets people watching with morbid fascination. And wouldn't it be great if we just lived in a world where people wanted to see, the great thing? I'd love to see a documentary that follows you and your friends around, the work that you're that you are doing, that you have done in places like India with the Shiro's project, which I was looking into that, and it's really funny because I was interviewing someone the other day whose family roots were from UP, Uttar Pradesh,
Mhm.
which is where the Shiro's project is currently running. I think there's one in Lucknow,
There is. I've even been to that one myself.
right? So you've been to more India more times than I have, by the way. I have never been.
I've only
Um,
been like once, but I've been to multiple different places in 1 week, but I do plan to go back next year as well.
yeah, yeah, no, it's something I need to do because of my mum's side of the family, that's her roots, basically. Um, but why don't you tell me about Shiro's and also, the work that you do with a sisterhoods, which I think are the two things related?
Yeah, so A Sisterhood is a UK-based organisation that's actually formed over two words, assist and sisterhood. And the organizer of the charity and the organization, she merged the two words together to create a organization that supported different female-based charities worldwide. Her goal was to empower and also help as many women in difficult situations. One of the charities she supports is Shiro's, which is about acid attack survivors, and she helps support them with different basically what they do as a whole is training, getting back to normality, boosting confidence, and being in an environment that is completely safe and all the support they need. They even pay some of the medical bills as well that is needed and general support because some of the stories are unfortunately so harrowing and so upsetting that these girls have left their home situations, whether they're 13 or 50, if it's happened
Yeah.
to them then, that a lot of them have had to leave home because most of the acid attacks, unfortunately, are from a family situation. It's one of a sad cultural thing that still exists, that acid still is accessible, easy to buy, that it just is something that's so sad. And their focus is really trying to get the awareness out about acid attacks, about how damaging it is, knowing the consequences, what happens on the other side, and then of course getting the women back on track and building their confidence. And quite honestly, I'm envious of the confidence these women have. I don't think it'll ever measure up to how incredible these girls are, that they have just such a love for life, putting themselves out there and so forward as well. And it is so beautiful and inspiring from my side to even see that. So this the charity A Sisterhood's like a UK-based organisation that it's a vehicle for a few different charities, but Shiro's is one of the ones that comes under the umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, especially because those ladies in India, they've had nothing but oppression almost from the moment that they were born. They've not had anyone building them up. They're from the moment that their parents, their families find out they're going to be a girl, not a boy. That's it. Their lives are mapped out, and if there's any deviation or whatever, there's no remonstration. It's just violence. So, to hear that they're happy, confident, they've got a lust for life and so on is just incredible because us over here in the Western world couldn't fathom how you could, just be living with that much oppression from such an early age and overcome it as well because it's seemingly insurmountable. But then that's where people like you come in because of the work that you do and the time that you give. You're also part of that impact, which is so, so important. I mean, I don't think you were into your 20s yet, and you'd already raised over £100,000 for charities, which is,
Yeah, it was just, I remember it was just short of, and I remember I finally hit it. And when I was 15, I raised about £30,000 at that point. And I remember going, right, by the time I'm 21, I want to have smashed £100,000. That was my target of I worked out. It was like, kind of per year from now, that's £10,000 per year that I need to be on track for. COVID hit and I stayed around at 18, 19, I stayed at the £90,000 mark, so close. And I'm not even kidding. I had a fundraiser on April the 3rd and I had managed to get the goal of £100,000. I'm born on April the 4th, before my 21st birthday, with literally was striking midnight to hit that goal of the fundraising.
Amazing. And you also started a business when you were 18, right?
Yeah.
Which is the Crown Coach,
Yeah.
which
So
isn't what people kind of think it says on the tin, which is, solely coaching girls for pageantry. It's everything else around that. So tell us about that and the work that you do through the Crown Coach.
after winning a few titles that I've now won, Miss Unity in Great Britain, Miss Teen Galaxy England, Miss International United Kingdom, and then finally the big one that kind of made everything change is I came fourth runner-up in the world in Miss International, which resulted in streams of my inbox of girls going, coach me, help me with my walk, help me with this. And it started off purely as walk training that I had the Crown Coach. And I had another great job working within a restaurant. I was very happy with that. And I thought, what a great side hustle that will work for about the next 3 months, and then it'll probably fizzle out. And over the time, it was getting bigger and bigger. And in February 2020, I was like, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to focus on this dream. And you probably know what happens in March 2020. We don't need to even say those words of what happened.
No, we know.
And I had to take things online. And I really started to tap into my own ability to help other people with their interview, their social media. And along came with that was actually a lot of support when it came to, I don't even want to use the words life coaching because it sounds crazy at 18, but actually giving women the support and the guidance that they need. Being almost the cheerleader that I say almost my parents gave me, that I know for a fact that not everyone is as blessed as me to have parents that say you can do anything in this world, will support you, dream big, that I'm that person for other people, but then helping them carve the path of how they get to A to B. So I consider myself as a female empowerment coach, not just about pageant training, that I'm starting to get plenty of clients now that go, I'm not actually doing pageants. I either understand the skills from pageantry are essential for my life that will help me develop, or they'll go, I've done a pageant. I'm now just going to be focusing on myself, but I still want to be coached, have the different aspects, still have that development, still want to continue thriving and becoming the best version of themselves. So that's what the Crown Coach is. The basis is it's got plenty of other products from mansion retreats that I literally came back yesterday, not helping with the voice, probably shouting and, getting all the girls together, having 21 majority teenagers all in one mansion retreat just before Christmas. They are very excited and wild. So when it comes to the games and loud music, my voice is already on its way out. But the whole brand is about developing confidence, helping women find themselves, not find the mold of pageantry, not become something they think they should be, but imagining the best version of themselves and starting to work towards that.
Yeah. There's one quote, I think it was an interview one of the many interviews that you had, but there was one quote you gave which really, really stuck out. And if I may, Harriette said, I tell them to persevere with those things because it's their dream, not anybody else's. I also teach them what pageantry is about because there are plenty of stereotypes. But actually, pageantry is about being a spokesmodel. It's about being someone who's a feminist, someone who's got a real reason to empower other people. They have often overcome adversities. And, that statement is really, really powerful for two reasons. Number one, obviously, for what it says on the tin, but number two, because you're the living embodiment of that, which is why the impact that you have on others is so powerful, because you're not just saying it, you've lived it. I mean, you can tell even just reading that back just now out loud, where I know exactly where that's come from with you.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to go into schools and share some of that as well. And I know the first one's a rough one. It was Monday morning. I was thinking, I'm going to have to work, and it was my first one. And I've spoke to large audience before, but they were there for a pageant. They were there to listen to me. I've had plenty of courses where girls come to listen to me, where themselves that they've paid, their parents have paid to come hear me speak. But having that where they are Monday morning and probably the only exciting bit before they walk into that room is I'm getting to miss my math class for this. Whatever she's about to say, at least I can daydream at the back of this seminar and do nothing for the next hour. But by the end, seeing them from the start, that you playing with their hands, talking to each other, probably sliding beyond their phones, to the end actually being the edge of the seat, and at the end raising to ask questions, and then the difference at the end of going and sharing their dream. Do you think I could do a pageant? And it was mainly women that I was speaking to, that they felt that they could go on to do anything that they wished. And this school was from a more underprivileged area where those dreams and those wishes might not even be told by their parents, not be able to see those dreams are possible, but telling them and showing them how to get there of dreaming. And one of my other favorite quotes is, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. We all get there at a different pace. 100% looks different to everybody else, and our version of success will also be completely unique. And to never compare where you are, it's about making your 100%, because we are given with different lives and circumstances that can't be helped. That 100% is going to be different, but that 100% is still there and still possible to make the most of it.
Yeah, I'm running my own race is something I frequently would say to people, especially when I was younger as well, because people like get really competitive. And, I grew up in a sales environment, my career. And, I would just turn around to everybody and say, I'm running my own race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the same as you.
Yeah, such a good one.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, I can't wait to edit and listen back to this because I'm just learning so much from you. It's crazy. So you've been doing a lot of traveling as well through all of this, which has just been so great to see, especially when you hit a place for the first time ever. Seeing your experience of it is just awesome. But of the places that you've had the opportunity to travel and spend time in, where have been some of your favorites?
It's like India, straight off the bat. No questions need to be asked. Now, I had a rough bucket list of the places I wanted to see in the world. And you know what? India was never somewhere that came on my list. And it was just never on the list to go to. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity, I was still excited about. But not saying I had no expectations, but the holidays I've been on and I've not been on the bucket list, not had this preconception of it's going to be amazing, it's going to be this, that I have never loved a trip so much. The girls that helped as well, and being honest with you as well, I didn't know the other girls all too well either, and I got to know them, then actually meet so many of the sheroes. I think I got to meet over 25 of the different sheroes. I got to explore Agra, Lucknow, and I went to Delhi as well and got to really immerse myself in the culture, see also as well the kind of the old Delhi as well, which was again very interesting, that I loved. Again, the different way of living. It's also some of the parts that I couldn't even imagine also living in. I do see again the privilege I do have. However, it's so inspiring to see also the happiness that there is, that it shows that no money, no, things, materialistic stuff, to be happy, to be comfortable, to be confident in yourself. It doesn't revolve around that. And I think a lot of what I took away was, in the UK, I think we look for academic and career, almost a satisfaction, appreciation. The goal is to be happy, and you'll be happy once you hit this milestone, almost this train along. But being in India, happiness was like, find it within yourself, find it in people that you can kind of be with. And that was one of the biggest things that I loved about it, was the culture. Obviously, seeing the saris was also a huge win, that they are absolutely breathtaking. And if you know me as well, I'm a foodie. I won't lie, frightened like to death of spice. Now, it's not that I don't like it. I mean, I literally start crying that I'll be there, literally my eyes streaming, my face bright red. I cannot handle spice. The food was phenomenal. I think I pretty much said make sure there's no spice. It was still spice. But I loved all of the experience, but I think also the charity element, being able to see where the fundraising has gone firsthand, not just other ones that I've done for cancer research, Together for Short Lives, which is a lot of research, but being able to see firsthand how much this money is going to change women's lives, and then being able to tell people about this trip, of the difference it's making, the impact that just £100 that we raise can change someone's life. It was incredible. So for me, India is number one, and I would say that I've traveled obviously Japan. I got to see so much of that. I was lucky enough to be there for 31 days in Japan and got to travel to 14 different prefectures, the basically cities. And I got to see so much different parts of it. And if you ever get the chance to go to Japan, you need to go to Kochi, and it's one of the prefectures on the south of Japan, like an island. All I can describe is imagine Bali, but 10 times better. Wow. That is how I can describe it. So I feel very blessed everywhere I've traveled. And I'm excited that I have the next trip planned, more of a luxurious one. I say it's not too much of a work one, but I leave in about 3 weeks for that, and I cannot wait.
Brilliant. I can't wait to see what you're going to get up to, because your Instagram's always so inspiring. The other thing that's been a real privilege for me this morning, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, is just listening to you. So one of my friends who actually was on episode, I think it was episode 6 or maybe 3 or 2, but Usman Qureshi, Dr. Usman Qureshi, I say, who's an orthodontist, but one of his practices is in Newcastle.
No way.
And so we were out the other evening, and he was just talking about his practice up there, and I was just like, do you know what? I will come up and be your assistant, because I just love the Geordie accent. It's one of my of the British Isles. I mean, I'm very into dialects and accents and so on anyway, as a English language student. But I don't know what it is about the Geordie accent. I think it's just one of the best. It's brilliant. Now, I know one bit of Geordie slang, which is Bobby Dazzler, and that's just because I get called a Bobby Dazzler.
What is that? I have never heard that in my life.
One of my clients who's from Newcastle told me that it's a Geordie term.
You see, I feel like I'm a fake Geordie, even though I've lived here my whole life. Most people go to me in Newcastle, go, "Oh, are you Northern Irish?" Or like, "Where are you from?"
Really?
Yeah, all of the time from Newcastle. They go, "Oh, so where are you from?" I'm like, "Newcastle." Like, "Oh, I mean, before that, I was like, still Newcastle." So it's when you're out of it, you can hear it, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so this next segment is going to go horribly wrong, probably. So I get called a Bobby Dazzler a lot, and I don't know why that is. I think because everybody calls me Bobby because it's my nickname, and it has been since birth. No one's really ever called me anything else, to be quite honest. And then Bobby Dazzler, I was going to ask you exactly what does it mean exactly, and that's why this has just gone horribly wrong.
This is one of those moments where it's like letting you down on the slang. I would say that as well. So my dad's from Manchester, so in the household, my mum's
the problem.
So you're like, that's the problem. It's like, put it back on dad. It's like, this is your fault. And for my whole childhood, that if anything wasn't pronounced correctly, as you know, the Geordie accent, if you're into dialects, half of the things are not pronounced properly, that you'd be like, no, nah. It's lots of like it's almost a different language. If you were to write it down, what we were saying, you would think, oh, what language is this? Like, what is this? Must be from somewhere else. But yeah, I can't help you there. I'm going to be curious afterwards, but I feel like I can be terrible with slang. I was not your girl for this question.
This is where we needed to prepare more before, but the problem is we're both so flipping busy. So my next question was going to be, can you teach me some Geordie slang? You must know some.
Oh yeah, you see, everyone laughs if I say any of it because I just sound so not Geordie, I think. So one of my favourite ones is Shy Ben's getting out, but you could probably work out what that means.
Shy,
You're like
sorry, say it again.
shy bands getting
Shy
out.
Benz getting
Get
out.
out.
Get
Nout.
out.
Nout as in like
Getting out.
NOWT.
Okay,
Nout.
so someone gets nothing.
So shy bands get.
Shy Benz. What's Shy Benz? I don't know. For the sake of time, because
For the sake of time, for the seconds. So Ben is like child, like someone.
right.
So if you basically if you don't ask, you don't get. That's basically what it
Okay.
means. Shy Ben's get now.
Okay,
It's
so
like
you
go
don't
ask.
ask. So Shy Benz. So shy,
Shy
like
kids. It's the shy
kids.
kids get
Yeah,
nothing.
you should get nothing. Okay, great. Right, give me another one.
Oh God. This is why you're testing me. That's my go-to one. Next one. Oh, it's totally random. I didn't know Raj was one of the words. I thought this was a UK slang.
Right.
The word Raj, and I was like, oh, someone was on about who's a Geordie, and the rest I was like, oh yeah, and I would never really say it. You can hear Raj, it does not suit me. But do you know what Raj means? Or you would say like they're a Raji,
They're a Raji.
or you go, that's Raj.
They're either dodgy or horrible.
So it could be, yeah, it could be like that, or I would say it's like your roadman. They're a Raji of like the black
Okay.
puffer jacket. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
North
yeah.
Face, the Adidas, like black joggers, Raji. Oh, that's Raj. It's like that's mad. Of like that's crazy. If you like said that you did something, like yeah, that's. Or like my boyfriend would say, yeah, that's pure Raj.
Pure
Would
Raj.
say.
Okay. Pure Raj means something different down here. Usually it means that you're comparing someone to a mate that's called Raj.
Oh, really? So that would be like yeah, they're totally two different things. So for people from Newcastle University coming down, that would be totally different.
Yeah. That would just get totally lost down here.
In translation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Bobby Dazzler, so I just looked it up. So but Bobby Dazzler is probably an older term, but it means something or someone excellent. You might also say they're a real diamond. So it's obvious why I get called that a lot, right?
Yeah, it's just like clearly a rare find. What can you say?
Exactly. There we go. Um, so to wrap it up before I let you go, what's the immediate future hold for you? So just kind of take me through the kind of goals that you have the next few years.
So for me, competing in Miss Universe will be a consistent thing that I competed this year. I did not take home the crown, but this will not stop me. I will continue
Yeah,
to
so
put it through.
sorry to interrupt, but I remember seeing that again because I follow you every single day. And when you didn't get the crown, you didn't even stop to lick your wounds. You were literally just straight, right, okay, I'm going again. Like
Yeah.
365 days time, I am back here and I'm taking it.
Yeah, I literally joked the day after. I was like 364 days to go. And it was one of those, that mindset. And I always had that beforehand of, I always say things, if you want something, it's one day. The time is just, it's a when. Will it be this year, next year, whenever it be? I will be one day Miss Universe Great Britain and representing GB on the international stage. I go, that is a fact. The year, question mark, unknown, but I will be going back next year. For me, in the next couple of years, that I have a huge interest in the fashion industry. I would love to have like my own collection, especially when it comes to gowns and dresses. That would be the ideal world. From there, that I want to see the world. I can't imagine me moving out of Newcastle. I just want to hop on that plane, go away, come back, because again, I'm a Geordie girl. I love Newcastle so much. And I could not imagine myself not in the UK, in Newcastle. Yeah. However, there's so much culture experiences that I want to do. I want to see the world. Goals to travel to every continent, and right now those are the kind of the immediate plans, and then the long term I'm going to be in one day 30 under 30 in Forbes magazine. That is the plan. Hopefully you guys will be like, you were a real one listening from this point, and then hopefully seeing me one day in the magazine.
Oh, that's brilliant. You will be, I've got no doubt.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
I'm so excited to see where he goes. So, the obvious place to find Harriotte online is _Harriotte at Instagram. Is it Harriotte _ or _Harriotte? I don't know.
It's at Harriotte, then _ at the end. Same for TikTok as well. I've just started posting on there again. Me going in shops in my ball gowns.
Yeah. I keep getting told that I should. So I've ditched Twitter pretty much because I don't think it does any good for me. We're both in kind of, let's call it the visual arts or visual creation. I'm just kind of slowly getting to grips with Instagram. People are telling me that I need to be on TikTok. I don't know. I'm going to ask your advice in coming months.
I'm actually not on Twitter. That I do have an account, but I really don't use it. I'm not even logged in. And again, I feel like it's just a noisy room. Everybody's shouting in pretty much. TikTok, I would say, is a visual version of that. That it's got the videos. It's basically the same thing of the memes, the headlines. I would say it's the same on TikTok. It's very specific though. It's like tailored obviously to you of what you watch. But I would say if you're ready to lose 2 hours, 3 hours of your day, download it. But if you're not, don't download it. Don't go there. I have the strength now not to scroll through it, but I probably do that on Reels instead on Instagram. Yeah,
this is true. It's like those, I mean, it's like you start at 0:00 and then literally like 40 minutes has gone by and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, every time.
So Instagram, if you want to check out what Harriette's been up to on the charity side of things, you can check out a-sisterhood.org.uk. Where else can people find you?
And also find me, it's just like TikTok, Facebook. I do have a page that you can like follow. It's like Harriotte Lane. But yeah, that's it. That's all the medias that I have. When people ask me, yes, I do have Be Real. I'm like, not another platform to keep up with. Yeah. I cannot do that. I cannot do that to myself.
From personal experience, the best place to follow you is definitely Instagram. So I will put all of your links in the show notes anyway. I mean, people can just Google your first name and you just come up everywhere, which again is just so cool.
Perks of the spelling. Perks of the
spelling. We don't ever want that to change. Have you had fun today?
I have. I've enjoyed sharing my story. Thank you so much for asking questions as well about it. I always enjoy sharing more about pageantry and hopefully persuaded someone or help someone understand that we are not mean. We actually get on. We are pretty much best friends, all of us.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Harriette. Thank you lot for joining Harriette and I on this episode. Don't forget Tailoring Talk is on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast. You know I love feedback, so do email me at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember to subscribe, rate and review. You can also click the share button in your player to send this episode on to people you know who might get some help or be inspired by Harriette today. If you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and want to support the show, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Roberto Rivilla. Have a great week, be good to each other, and I'll see you on the next one.